Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here this evening. And it's nice to know that I'm making my contacts from Anegada to Joss Van Dyke. I want you to call your friends and let them know that Speak Your Mind is on, because tonight we have a very, very important show. We want to talk to you about issues that are very valuable to you. I'm going to be having a guest with me this evening, along with Mr. De Castro, and I would leave the topic for the night until my good colleagues arrive. But the issue is important because the issue is about the future for your children, the future for everything in terms of development for the British Virgin Islands. We must understand that we must maintain the foundation, because if we do not maintain the foundation, then there will be nothing for our children and children down the road to build on. You would, of course, realize that your parents made a foundation for you. It was because of that foundation, however big, however small, however rough, however smooth, was the foundation upon which you built and upon which you gain your knowledge and your wisdom and your foresight and your vision. We hear a lot these days about where there's no vision, the people perish. We also hear a lot about let us put down our ignorance and take up our intelligence. All those are very well, very truly good words, because we must not continue to play with ignorance. We must in fact take up the armor that would in fact provide the foreground, provide the background, provide everything necessary for our children. And we must in fact try to develop and maintain a vision, because without a vision we cannot build a foundation. Without a vision we cannot draw the maps, we cannot draw the plans. And I want to tell you this, that wisdom comes from knowledge and experience. And you hear a lot about education. Education is indeed the vital nourishment upon which wisdom is built. I'm not saying that if you're not educated, you can't be wise, because people could be naturally wise simply by the gift given by God. But we cannot afford to put down, we cannot afford not to put down our ignorance and take up our intelligence, regardless of who says it. We cannot afford to develop a vision, regardless of who says it. As far as I know, in that particular aspect, that was the words, as far as I understand it, if I remember well, of the wisest man that ever lived. And I don't have to tell you who he is. Ladies and gentlemen, call your neighbor, call your friends. Let them know that we are talking tonight, and we are talking on an issue But I want to remind you above all things that we must understand that freedom of expression does not give you nor I the right to abuse another person. Freedom of expression must be aligned with truth and with facts. And while the name of the show is Speak Your Mind, if we do not have respect for others on the show, I'm afraid we'll have to part. You can say what you want to say without implicating anybody. You can say what you want to say without putting the station in jeopardy of being sued. You can say what you want to say without putting myself in jeopardy of being sued. Because as you see it today, people seem to think they can make millions just by you expressing yourselves, and perhaps because of a short weakness. Remember that freedom of expression does not give you nor I the right to say things that are not true about somebody. So be very careful, because this show will have to separate you and us if you continue against our instructions, against our wish, against our will, to abuse anybody. Before you get the station and myself into trouble, we will have to disconnect your call. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going through a very, very serious time in the development of the British Virgin Islands. You and I, or all those who are about my age and a little younger, will remember where we came from. And if we are not careful, we would lose everything. Please call your neighbors and your friends and let them know that we're having a very special show this evening. But I do not want to start it by myself alone. My colleagues will soon be here, and we'll move from there. I've heard a number of persons, a number of friends talking, saying that they are fed up with the state of governance and government that we have been experiencing for the last couple of years, for the last 4, 6, 8 years. And that for that reason, they're not going to the polls. I want to let you know that the right to vote is sacred. Government, as my old lady used to say, and I like to quote her because she was the one who taught me most everything I know. Order, she says, or said, is heaven's first law. And order is government, and government is order. We are governed by the laws we make for the purpose of creating order. We know and we have experienced a number of issues where there are those among us who have no respect for law and order. Those among us who have no concern about good governance. But let us understand that we have a responsibility to set an example for our children to follow, because we are the mentors. But the funny thing about it is, a child today is not like I was a child 72 years ago. The smallest child today can manipulate one of these things you call a computer, one of these phones. And I have the living devil to make a call, in spite of how much I claim I know. Kids are different today than what they were. And I want to send you one message with kids. Do not refuse to answer their questions. You must find an answer for every question your little child makes, because they want knowledge, they want to know, they want to become wise. And for that reason, and that reason alone, I want you to pay particular attention to your children. Looking at them today and looking back as to when I was a child, they look 10 times smarter than me. And I have to give them the credit. So ladies and gentlemen, your kids are your jewels. If you allow them to fall under the feet of animals and people, they'll be trampled upon. If you encourage them to take on a role in life, they will shine like the sun and the moon. So don't be worried. Take care of your kids. Make sure that everything you do is for them. Because the command that God gave everything He created that had life was to be fruitful and multiply. Having been fruitful and multiplied, it's our responsibility then to train the child up in the way it should go, so that when it becomes older, when it becomes like you and I, they can be respected, they can be honored. So please, Mr. DiCastro has just arrived, and I don't know if I told you we had a guest, did I? No, we have a guest. We have Bishop Klein this evening,
Okay.
and we want to talk about the Bywater deal.
Okay.
We want to push that home, even though some people think we shouldn't talk about it. I do believe that we cannot ignore it.
Okay.
We have to. If we don't, we will be digging a ditch for our own children.
Okay.
And without that, they'll be lost in their own homes. Do not know where to find a cup, a plate, a spoon, or a fork. So let us, Courtney, as we've always tried, to walk and to talk in the best interest of our children. So I'm going to give you the opportunity now to say good evening to our good listeners out there, and we let them know that we'll soon be on with the topic.
Yeah, well, I'd say good evening to our viewers out there, and to say that, as usual, Edmund, I'm hoping that we would have a wonderful show tonight. I'm hoping that we'll get lots of calls and lots of texts, and that the people in the community from Anegada to Joshua, Totola, Virgin Gorda, even Salt Island, all the islands, if they can tune into this program tonight, and let's get going. One of the things we're going to discuss tonight as well, Edmund, is we're going to talk about the sequence of things that will happen coming up to the election. We know we're going to have, there's going to be a sitting of the House where they're going to have to, dissolve the House of Assembly, and then they're going to set a date when the election is going to be. Then they're going to have nomination day, and then they're going to have the last day that people can register to vote, and then we're going to have campaigning, and then we're going to have an election. So we're going to go through that sequence of things a bit with our viewing public, so that we familiarize persons as much as possible with the process, and so that people be more educated about the process and be more involved in the process. I think we have to get people more involved in the process.
Courtney, and I'm sure they speak to you as much as they do speak to me. People are very appreciative of the way we try to bring information and knowledge to them.
Yes.
That is one of the things they said to me all the time. Mr. Meduri, you and Mr. DiCastro have a very good show. We learn so much by listening to your show. And I would like, however, to see that you all become more active.
More involved.
In making calls and making your texts. Because if without you, this country is dead. You are the salt of this country. And if you lose your salt, then this country can have no flavor.
And the more involved the public, the public gets in the program, the more interesting the program becomes. Then people with wouldn't say, oh, that's just the Castro and Maduro. You know?
Right.
This is the whole community.
This is a community.
And that is something that we hope for, and we're hopeful that we can reach the living room of most of the people in the Virgin Islands so that we can talk to them one-on-one, have a conversation with them, and let them make up their own minds. Not Edmund's mind, not the Castro mind.
Not the Castro mind. I know they like to say that. I'd like to hear them speak my mind.
Yeah.
But that's not the truth. That's not the fact. We want to hear you express yourselves. And as I said earlier, Courtney, the right to express oneself, the right to freedom of expression, does not give any one of us the right to abuse another individual.
No, not at all.
So we got to be very careful with how we speak. As a talk show host, and Mr. DeCastro being my colleague, we have to try and protect the rights of everybody else, including us and the station.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break now, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be right back with you.
When you need total insurance coverage, Caribbean Insurers Limited is here for you. Backed by A-rated companies, Caribbean Insurers offers coverage for auto, home, marine, health and life, contractors all risk, employers liability, and professional indemnity. Our life and health coverage is the best. Our in-house claims service beats all the competition. We cover you for disasters such as fires, hurricanes, and floods. We have a special deal for drivers under the age of 25, so switching to Caribbean Insurers can save you money. For the best claim service, fast and efficient customer service, stability, and longevity, Caribbean Insurers is a must for every household. We also compare our home insurance policies with any other policies for free. Caribbean Insurers has a wealth of insurance knowledge for almost 40 years in the insurance business and over 500 years total staff experience. Trust us to provide you with insurance when you need it. So, stop by our office today or give us a call and we'll come to you. Call 494-2728.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're right back with you. We are still waiting on our guest, and in the meantime, we're going to fill in. But I think we should breach the thing or wait till Mr. Thing comes.
No, wait till when he comes.
If you want to call, you could call. If you want to say something in the meantime, we have no objections to that.
Yeah, we have the numbers up there, 300-1949 for calls and 300-1950 for text. Maybe I need to clear the text, Edmund, in case, so that when people text, we could get some text. Memory full.
Empty it then.
Yeah. Remind callers to log on to the jtvlive.net. If you're watching the show, you can call someone and remind them that this show is also live broadcast on jtvlive.net. And www, of course, www.jtvlive.net. Let's see if I could clear this thing here so we could get some calls.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we moving through an election season.
Yeah,
and we will talk about issues that you should understand. And the most important of them is this: please go to the polls. If you do not go to the polls and make your vote, you cannot blame anybody in the future. If you go to the polls and make your vote, then you can blame who you elect. But as I said, thousands, if not millions of people have died over the ages seeking the right to defend themselves. So if you don't do that, you can't complain. We have something there?
Yeah, we have a text that came in. It says, Mr. De Castro, it's a good night, gentlemen. Mr. De Castro, give me your personal and expert opinion on the location and purpose of the traffic lights now erected by the moorings. That's asking me for my personal and professional engineer. I'm an architect, not an engineer. The intersection is an intersection that would work better with the stoplights, with the traffic lights. I've seen some people on the blogs talking about putting a roundabout there. I don't think a roundabout would work there. I think the traffic situation that we have there would probably be best solved at this time by putting traffic lights. Now, how the traffic lights function would be a different thing. If it's an intelligent traffic light.
Installation?
No, not installation, intelligent. What I mean is, if it's just what we call a on-off switch, where it comes green and then it goes red, and it can't do anything else, then we're in for some problem.
You mean one of those that is sensitive?
If it's one that can actually look at the traffic and decide what to do, this is no new technology. This is old technology.
Is it right, the one there by the Station Avenue? I think it operates like that sometimes. A lot of these things have the capability to do it, but whether or not we have them functioning that way is a different story. Okay. Why I'm saying that is because you can dismantle a lot of the functions and it would still work. So I don't know how it's going to be done. We're not privileged to that kind of information. Okay, so if it's an intelligent installation, it can see the traffic and it can make decisions that would make the traffic flow smoother. Okay, like for instance, if it could look at the length of the traffic and it see that it needs to adjust to allow the traffic to move faster in one direction, that kind of stuff. If that is what we're getting, I think that would be a plus. If not, we will be on a timer, and after if it's set for 5 seconds, after 5 seconds the traffic will go in the other direction. It could delay the traffic if it's not properly set up.
If it's not properly set, it can delay the traffic. One plus I think it would afford is people going to the moorings would have the benefit of being able to turn without getting into an accident, and people who are leaving the moorings area and going towards the eastern end of the island would also have the benefit of being able to turn right when you come out of the moorings, which is something that you couldn't do in the past. You would have to go all the way down to the roundabout and come back up. So that's a positive. I think it would benefit the people who own the property over on Wakomski too, more than anybody else. And I think we're developing, and when you're developing, change is something that some people don't like, but change is something that is inevitable. And I am hopeful that we take the pedestrians into consideration so that we allow the flow of pedestrians to walk along with the lights as well.
Because the most important part of traffic is the pedestrians.
The pedestrian. I have a colleague who I always tell him the pedestrian is always right.
The pedestrian must have the right of way.
They were here before the horse and the cat and the buggy.
That's right.
And the vehicle. So it amounts to saying that they will perpetually have the right of way.
And of course, the stoplights should take care of pedestrian crossing as well.
Of pedestrian crossing as well, yeah. So it's not, I think it's, and don't forget the handicapped people. We have to always remember
they're pedestrians too.
That the handicapped people need to be considered with all of these projects that we're doing. And God forbid any one of us should end up in a wheelchair. We would also want to make sure that we can travel unobstructed.
Oh, yes.
Not having to be pushed by somebody, but be able to propel yourself and be individualistic like everybody else. So once those things are being done, I think we can. We have another text. Let's see what is it. What are your views on the leader of the opposition leaving the House, the Honorable House, while in session? Well, I think the opposition, as it's supposed to be the opposition to the government, So it's designed in the parliamentary process to keep the government in check and balance. And I'm going to give my views, you could give yours, Brother Edmund. I think that maybe it's a late thing to do. You know, after 4 years, it's something late to do, but better late than never. It shows a certain amount of resilience to what was being done.
Well, what happened on that day?
It was tactful to me because at the time when he left, it broke the quorum.
What happened on that day is simply a misfortune because the speaker did not handle it properly at all.
Well, that's a whole other story.
No, well, this is why the leader of the opposition walked out. Because the speaker did not handle the thing professionally. They were speaking on the adjournment. And on the adjournment, any member can speak on anything. No. I said that to say this. The fact that it's customary, no, it's not written anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just that's their custom not to do certain things. But they're governed by Robert's rules and orders.
Yes.
It doesn't appear to me as if he reads them. And if they're governed by Robert's rules and orders, then the Speaker of the Opposition had every right to speak. And those who got up and called the House to order, it is not a motion, but they get up and call on a matter of order, they themselves don't seem to understand what was happening. If I were the leader of the opposition, I'd walk out and lead them too. In the first place, another thing that happened that day, somebody had to remind the speaker that there was no quorum.
Yes.
And if there's no quorum, there's no meeting.
There's no meeting.
The moment, from the time the leader of the opposition walked out, if the Speaker of the House knew what he was doing, he would announce now that there's no quorum and this House must come to an immediate adjourn.
Yes. And at that point there, the person who's in charge of order in the House of Assembly is supposed to take up the mace and walk out with it.
That's the Speaker. The Speaker is in control of the House.
Yeah.
He brings it to an end. Instead of allowing another officer, another member of the House to ridicule the leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
But something else that came up with that, Brother Edmund, is that some members don't go to the House of Assembly.
No?
No, if you have 13 members and one walk out and you don't have a quorum, that is obvious.
It's ridiculous.
What is ridiculous?
It's ridiculous in a house.
It is obvious
that you barely have
enough
quorum.
That you barely have
what
enough
are we paying them for?
Right.
What do we elect them for?
140,000.
Oh.
You know.
So all of that must have annoyed the leader of the opposition. That the rest of them were not there.
The rest of them were not there.
Right.
And he was, in my opinion, trying his best to keep the meeting going.
And I think what the leader of the opposition did by walking out was to bring to the attention of the public the incompetency of the speaker, number one, and the poor attendance of the members.
But don't you think that there should be some penalties for not attending? If you're collecting all of this money and you don't go to the meeting, shouldn't there be some penalties? Usually, if you don't show up to your job, the consequences, right?
Well, Courtney, there are consequences. You could only miss so many meetings. And I think if you miss more than so many meetings, you're going to have to retire. You're going to have to do something because you elected to serve in the House.
That is in the standing orders.
Probably is in the Constitution as well.
I haven't
seen it.
I don't see that anywhere.
Surprised if it's there.
I don't see that anywhere in the Constitution.
But you cannot be absent from the House too long.
It would have to be something that would be in the standing orders.
Somewhere there's got to be a rule on it.
But we're not privy to the standing orders at this point. So, you know, that's something that maybe one of the callers may call in and tell us that we're wrong. You know,
if they're listening to us.
If they're listening to us, they might not be listening to us. They might be out on the streets. You know, this is. Yeah, we have another text. Yeah. those new stoplights are too close to both of the corners and they will cause accidents. Well, that's one person's opinion. I am one of those people who don't like to comment on something like that until it is finished, because you know, you don't really know what is intended.
No, but
I don't know. They could put warning lights at both corners for, you know, for persons who drive.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's a fair observation. Many people have said that to me.
Yeah.
Many people have said it to me. In one particular case, it was said that to a person who does not know the area, if they are coming up to that area and the visitors don't know that, when somebody stops abruptly to obey the traffic light, they might run right into the back of the vehicle. So those things are possible.
But at the same time, I think we have to remember that the way the other installation at Station Avenue was done, there's the lights to warn the public that you're coming up.
That's a remedy to what you're saying. But the person is quite right. Right now, there's no light to warn anybody.
But they're not finished.
How do we know? She's probably making a good reminder, whoever he or she.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Courtney, right to the point of the show tonight that I want to move forward on. And I'm going to ask Bishop Klein to make his good evening announcement, because I think this show tonight is extremely important, and I want to make sure that we do it all together so that we cannot or should not, or at least make minimum errors if possible. So Bishop, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself tonight, and being that you are more familiar with the issue, it would be nice if you would give a little introduction of it, and then we'll be able to dialogue with the people. As a matter of fact, I gave you the lead now.
Thank you. It's been a while I've been here. It's good to be with you tonight, Edmund, Courtney.
It's a great pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you as well.
And to the wonderful people of the British Virgin Islands, good evening. Tonight I joined these good gentlemen to discuss, I think, something that has resurfaced in our local arena, and I think it's worth us discussing and exploring, and it's this whole issue of the Bywater deal and contingent liability. I want to, if you would, say to the people tonight that this issue is so much bigger than I think you imagine it to be. This is not just an issue as most people used to think about it as ocean conversion and Bywater. This is a BVI national issue concerning one of our natural, I call it a natural resource of the territory, a vital resource, let me put it that way. And it's the ability to produce water for ourselves. Water producing around the world is one of the fastest growing businesses around the world. And it is one of the economic, I believe, stabilizers of any country. And what we are fighting for and what we have been fighting for is to maintain our control of our vital resource. And our government has sought to take that away from us, from a local business, and put it into the hands of foreigners. And doing so at a cost that puts our country, that leaves our children, that saddles our children with a debt. The Premier said that the budget has been overspent by about $147 million. Now imagine you're overspending by about $147 million, but yet you take $1 million a month, you take $45 million that a local company was giving you in savings on a water contract, and you say no to that, you don't know where the additional revenue is coming from to make up the budget shortfall, but yet you are spending more money than you're taking in, and not looking to save areas where you can save money. And a lot of people also think, Edmund, that this is a black and white issue. Some people have classified, this is not that.
This is not a black and white issue.
There are white BVI Islanders who make significant contribution to this territory.
Yes.
And there are white BVI Islanders who make significant contribution to this territory. This is not that.
It's not a black and white issue.
This is a national issue. And we believe that this issue is important for us to keep fighting about, and to let our government know that we are serious about saving money.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get to this whole thing about this contingent liability.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, the leader of the opposition walked out the House of Assembly. He walked out because he wanted to speak about contingent liability in general, as he puts it, and not so much what was tabled. He was refused by this, objected by the Minister of Communication and Work, and refused
by the Speaker
of the House, under customary practice, not the legal or rule of the House.
Exactly.
Now, why is it that they don't want to speak about this thing? Then, what was tabled? What was tabled is a report or an opinion by Baker Tilly, who was hired by the government to address, in their words, I guess, what the Foreign and Commonwealth Office asked them to address. What were they asked to address? They were asked to address how to treat this contingent liability in the 2011 budget and the subsequent years. The government was never asked, one, whether there's a contingent liability. We believe that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office have enough expertise that if they're going to send out a letter, you have discovered in your contract there is a liability, then we trust them that they have gone to their various accountants and experts to examine the contract and then come back with such a conclusion.
Exactly.
So that's a foregone conclusion. There is a contingent liability.
A huge one.
And they asked the government to simply hire an independent, remember that word, ladies and gentlemen, an independent accounting firm that will tell them under international accounting rules how to treat that liability. What did our government do? One, they went to Baker Tilly, who cannot be considered in this regard as an independent accounting firm.
Absolutely correct.
Because Baker Tilly was the one that worked for government in doing the due diligence on Bywater,
right,
that gave Bywater a clean bill of health, when they know that the findings on Bywater internationally was just not that. So that was misleading information. And now they write a report which is misleading and present that to the government, for the government to present to the people of this territory and make us believe that somehow this contingent liability that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office say was there has automatically now disappeared. And when trying to address that in the House of Assemblies by the leader of the opposition, he's refused. And I believe it's just a big cover-up. It's a smoke screen. It's an effort on the part of this government not to have this thing discussed in the House of Assembly and to make it go away and not do what the Foreign and Commonwealth Office says, and that is to make sure it comes to the House of Assembly because it's a liability, and any liability needs to pass the House of Assembly. It needs to come up, it needs to be discussed, and treat it properly as a budgetary item. And so we've come now to this point where the government want to make this liability go away. I want to say to the people of this territory, it just doesn't work like that. You can't just make something go away. The liability, I'll give you a for instance as what is liable in this contract. If this government, after the plant is built, water start producing, and if this government or any government, if the government of British Virgin Islands, because we don't know what government, refuse to pay their bill, which is about $900,000 a month, Edmund. If they refuse to pay that bill within a 30-day period, they are liable. Not only can Bywater cry default on the part of the government, the interest that they have to pay daily, not just monthly, goes up every day. Now, you and I both know, and everyone who does business with the government know, the government does not pay their bills within 30 days. The process for paying bills within government does not allow them the luxury to pay a bill within 30 days. And if somehow Bywater is now going to come and get special treatment and get their money on time every 30 days, then all of us need to get the same. That means if they can do it for one, why can't they do it for all of us? If they can do it for a foreign company, why can't they do it for local companies? But all of us know the process doesn't quite work like that. And there are many people who have been patient in waiting for their money because they know eventually it will come. Those are some of the things that are in this document that put our government, put our taxpayers' money at risk, and they refuse, they just utterly refuse to address it properly, to talk to the people, be honest with the people about this contract and what it will cost now and in the years to come, what kind of national debt, what kind of national financial burden they're putting on the backs of the taxpayers. And that's where we are tonight.
Now Bishop Klein, before I came this evening, someone was saying to me that the people do not know what a contingent liability is. And I'd like to make an explanation to the people, and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Certainly.
And so on. I understand a contingent liability not only to be what you just said, but it also has to do with any unexpected, unprepared for financial responsibility down the road. Government, if they're taking on that, that is, as far as I understand, what contingent liability is. If they are going to indemnify the party to the contract, absolutely, then they will have to indemnify them in that way as well. For instance, all local contractors, when they have contracts with government, they have to get insurance to cover things like that. Am I right, Mr. Courtney?
Yeah, they have to get bonds.
Exactly.
Yes.
So in case a hurricane, in case anything outside their control happens, the insurance company will take care of it.
Yeah.
So our government here now, by this contingency liability problem, has become an insurance company for the contractor, as far as I can see. Because if this contractor fails in any way, they don't even have to go to the insurance company. I don't know if they have any provisions in the contract saying they must have insurance to cover all these things.
Oh no, the government insures that.
Exactly.
If this contractor fails,
exactly,
government pays.
Exactly.
If the government fails, the government pays.
Exactly.
No matter what happens,
right,
no matter how badly Bywater performs in under this contract, government pays.
So I want to come back now further, Bishop, and show the people. And the contingency liability we're talking is just like this. You and I go to the insurance company and we insure our health, we insure this, we insure that. Whatever happens to us down the road under that is a contingent liability for the insurance company.
It's a liability.
They don't know what is going to show up. They don't know when Edmund will die. They don't know when he'll break a leg. But because of the contract he has through the policy, whatever happens to Edmund that is covered under the policy immediately becomes a liability for the insurance.
That's right.
And what I'm trying to say this way, I've gone this way. A contingency liability is easy to understand.
It's easy. It's easy and it's clear.
And it's clear.
It holds you liable for an action performed in the past or that may happen.
That may happen.
In the future.
In the future.
We have a couple of texts. Let me see if any of them relate to what we're talking about.
So,
yeah. Well, you know, it's really, really, from the beginning of this, every legal mind that we have spoken to concerning this contract came away with one opinion.
Yes.
Bywater is getting reward without responsibility. They have no responsibility here under this contract. They could say the lightning came from the sky and blow up the building and they walk away and the government still have to pay them.
Hold that thought. A colleague of mine was asking me when the sewage is going to start. But anyway, we have a text here. It said, Mr. Klein, your argument is 100% correct. I am not a fan of investment club, but you are correct. So that's a text that just came in.
Okay, thank you.
Good night to all. A few questions. Is anything being done now? The contract already signed, Bishop Klein. I agree with you 100% with what you said. It's another person. Payment terms are something that can be negotiated. If John Doe hasn't negotiated payment terms, but Bywater have, so what? Whose fault is that? It's our fault. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, but we ain't debating that.
We ain't debating. I would like our government to really tell the people of Virgin Gorda what's the reason the Air Sunshine is no longer in action between the islands, for it is a setback to Virgin Gorda economy and the small business, trucking, etc. That is a very serious concern that I know about as well.
Yeah. We want to deal strictly.
Yeah, but those are the ones that came in so far, Brother Klein, and so far it seems that a number of persons are agreeing with you.
Yeah, you know, and I want the people to know that, listen, we've always said we are against policies and decisions made by any government. I don't care what they call themselves, what P they are. NDP, VIP, if they're making bad decisions that we the people consider and we can see as bad decisions, we have a responsibility to talk about it.
That's right.
All right? And what we have seen over the last 3 years is a disenfranchisement of our people.
Exactly.
And we do not control our water anymore. We do not control telecommunications. We haven't been doing that for a while. Now it's even worse. We do not control our financial services. We do not control our tourism products. The large tourist products in our country are controlled by foreigners, and we thank God for their investments and the jobs opportunity that they provide and all of that. And all we are saying to the government, those areas which we can control, which we have control, which we have a track record for the past 20 years doing it diligently without fail, why take that away from this people and give it to a foreign company?
Bishop, I'm sure you're going to understand this expression when I make it. If your son asks you for bread, would you give him a stone? Or if he asks you for a fish,
would you give him a snake?
Would you give him a snake?
A serpent?
No. And that's where we are. The fact is that we're going to go on a break right now, ladies and gentlemen. But the fact is that we have to stand up at this point, because if you do not control your own home, you would lose it.
You will lose it.
And then who are you going to blame after that?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have lost control of your own home, how can you say what function your children will play down the road?
Down the road.
We are going to make a serious stand here tonight because there's something else we want to bring to your attention. And Bishop Klein, I want people to understand. I wish we had another 10 or 12 religious leaders in this country like you. They're all afraid to stand up. I'm wondering who are they leading?
I don't know what they're afraid of.
I'm wondering whose shepherd are they?
I don't. The thing is, I don't know what they're afraid of.
Even Jesus himself stood up and he said, if your son asks you for bread, would you give him a stone?
Yeah.
He said something earlier that I don't like to say because it's so harsh. But since Jesus said, I think it was Jesus who said it, I cannot take the children's bread and throw it to the dog. I'm not calling down anybody, but it's as serious as that. And that is why we are standing tonight.
Yeah. Why give her your children's inheritance?
How could you?
Why do that?
It makes no sense.
Yes. A lot of people ask, you're going to read, Courtney? You ready? Okay, go ahead.
I don't see why they expect locals to have to negotiate being paid. When a local completes a service for government, why do they now have to beg to be paid? This should be done considering that we, the suppliers, need to be paid to live. That's based on
Well, Courtney, I think in all fairness, we have to understand that it's not a Tortola thing. It's a global thing. But what we're saying here now is exactly what the person is saying in a different way. Because instead of looking after their own people,
yes,
they're looking after somebody else.
Yeah.
The money now we're going to give away to somebody else is what should be going in our pockets. It's as simple, it's as easy as that.
All right, buddy. All right.
You know?
Yeah.
And all we are saying is that if the government has the ability to pay this large sum of money, it's over $900,000 a month that this contract calls for. And if they're going to sign on to pay this to a foreign company, then why can't they make some commitments to paying the local businesses who have maybe just $20,000 a month, $10,000 a month, you know? And that's all we are saying. We understand, but we understand the process.
Yes.
We understand that it takes time to process POs and the various things, and it might go longer than 30 days. But what the government has signed is saying we accept liability and we accept the responsibility. If we don't pay you in 30 days, then we will pay you interest starting day 31. We will pay you interest on what we owe you. Now, where in the world do you do
What is
that?
so ridiculous, Bishop? What they have agreed to, as you're saying there, is not compatible with the current global recession.
It's not. It's just not.
It's certainly not good governance.
It's not. And Bywater gets this squeaky clean, glorified contract that they don't have to do anything.
Bishop Klein, what we call it is a sweetheart deal.
A sweetheart deal, okay.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
That's what we call it.
I'll go with that.
That's on here, that one.
We have a text that says, "You're talking good, Mr. Maduro. Keep going. What y'all saying makes a lot of sense." Hey, Courtney, thanks for reading the people text.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, texter.
High Bywater trailers had to be off all land long time ago. We have enough cranes and flatbeds. Somebody making a comment. You hear it?
Well, here's the thing.
Bywater trailers had to be off all land long time ago. We have enough cranes and flatbeds.
So what they're saying is to transport the stuff they're bringing in their own.
No, they're saying that we should already taking them and taking them off of our land. Bishop Klein, let's say, for instance, that a new party get in power and they decided that they won't continue with Bywater agreement. How much would it cost the government to break that contract? It will cost a lot.
About $150 million.
Yes.
But then again, Bishop, as far as I recall, going back,
unless they take them to court.
The company never qualified for the contract.
No,
the contract as it was written,
it was never ever unbid. It never went.
That's
to no
one
bid.
thing.
Never went to no.
But
bid.
they had a certain time to produce certain financial status.
Condition precedent.
Yeah. And they never met them.
They never met.
So how could they have a valid contract?
And we know for sure that Bywater BVI never got a loan from a financial institution. When asked, they was said Bywater BVI got a loan from Bywater UK. Now, what are the terms and conditions of that loan? The government was part of the condition precedents was that the government should know the terms and the conditions of that loan. And it seems like no one knows that.
But what I'm saying, they never met the conditions precedent to the thing. So that alone is enough for any government to argue that there's something wrong in it and the whole matter should be investigated.
Well, the government don't want to argue that. The government just wants to give away the money.
Because if they come up to the point to investigate that, somebody going to lose their pants.
They say someone texting again and said them taking bribe so they can't stand up. That's
people always ask me, why, where this one, where's that one, to answer the gentleman's question. I'm not responsible for what other people do.
No.
All I know is I have a responsibility as a BVI lander, as a leader, a spiritual leader. I'm a business leader in this territory, and I have the interests of this territory at heart. I would like to know from our present political leaders, where are they taking us?
Where are they taking us?
Because I don't know. Where do they see us being 20 years from now? What type of BVI do they want us to live in? A BVI where we are just employees, where we don't own anything, where we don't own our own businesses, or where we just settle for the little petty contracts? And is that the kind of BVI that our leaders are saying they want us to live in? What are they doing to empower the local businessman to grow, to expand his business, to look globally, nationally? What are they doing to attract new entrepreneurship within the within the country, so that when people graduate from high school and from colleges, they can come back home and take their rightful place in this territory? That is what countries around the world are doing in every aspect. They're looking for opportunities in renewable energy, in tourism, in just about everywhere. They're looking in industry, in manufacturing, in whatever they're doing. What is our government doing? Where are the ambassadors going around the world to attract new businesses and then set your local people up and say, listen, we're bringing this person here and we want you to talk to them. Here's an opportunity for you to start a business in partnership. Instead, they take hook, line, and sinker.
The little that we had.
The little that we have and give it away.
Another text
it ain't right.
It said, did Bywater promise to hand over something as the contract end? I don't know if they promised to hand over anything.
No, Bywater whole agenda is, after the 16-year contract ends, is to get a management contract. It says that in the Bywater principle of operation. They are not just interested in getting a contract to build a water plant. They're interested in managing and operating the contract, because that's where the money is.
Hold that thought. We have a call. Yeah. Good evening. You've reached Speak Your Mind. Please turn your television down, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Gentlemen. I'd like to say a special good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
Answering Pastor Klein. The only road I see that they're taking us on to is back to slavery. Because how you look at it, you're selling the land to the white guys with the money, whereas the small man in the land who's struggling to survive cannot survive. So the only thing I see is back to slavery.
And you know, Carla, to add to what you said, who are we going to blame? Who would our children blame 100 years down the road? Is it not us?
Yes.
Is it not
we are the ones who make the eggs.
Is not we who given our children's bread and fish away?
Right. So if we don't stand up and stand out of the crowd, then we are going with them on what they're doing.
Therefore, I want to see as many of us as possible at the House of Assembly. Let's fill it up. Let's run it over. Let them understand that we care for our children.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Something has to be done.
And it's so nice to hear you talk the way you're talking here. Because we need that kind of support. Not just for us here, but for your children and your children all the way down the road. So thank you so much for that call, Carla.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You know, and that was the magic of H. Lavity Stout. When companies came in here to do business, one of the things that HL did, and I know this from experience, is that he tried to point them in the direction of a local business or businessmen that they can partner with to develop this business idea.
And we have lost that.
Yes. We've lost that.
Good evening, you're free to speak your mind. Please turn your television set down, please.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, we're sold out with this by water. Now, perhaps I don't understand, but the first contract on February 2010 was replaced 16 months later. And in this new contract, it is said instead of a contract between government and Bywater, it should be between Bywater BVI and government. Now, if there are no shareholders locally, and if no local shareholders want to take on the responsibility before the work is finished, how can it be a contract between government and Bywater BVI Limited?
It's not a contract.
All of them are just very stubborn. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Carla, it's not a contract between them and Bywater BVI. We need to put up a commission inquiry to find out who Bywater BVI is. Because as it stands, they're not needed.
Yeah.
We have a contract with Bywater Panama. They are supposed to do the work.
Yes.
If they want to employ Bywater BVI Limited, and it looks funny, who is Bywater BVI Limited? Who is Bywater BVI Limited? I believe the leader for the opposition asked that question in the House.
There's so much secrecy surrounding this.
What is the purpose of Bywater BVI Limited?
I think too, something that we should probably explain as all businessmen is that when we're doing business, you can have all the secrecy you want, but if you're doing public business where you're spending public funds, the secrecy has to go through the window because it is not your money. It is the public's money.
My other questions come back, Mr. DeCastro. What does Bywater BVI know about water and sewage?
Well,
what is the part they're really playing?
Well, Adrian White, that's what the point the lady was making. There's no shareholders locally.
There's no shareholders locally.
Adrian White is still the president, managing director, owner of
Bywater BVI.
Yes.
So what is the purpose of Bywater BVI?
We lost that call. Please call back.
It's a shell.
The people need to know who is Bywater BVI.
It's wool over your eyes.
Wool over eyes.
Yeah, we fall for it, you know.
Not that we fall for it, we ain't on the choice.
Yeah.
We are being dictated into all of these situations. We need a national policy. Apart from any laws that we have, we need a national policy that would in fact lead this nation forward in the best interest of its citizens.
That's all we ask.
Simple as that. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah.
And that was the main purpose of this show this evening.
Yes, yes.
To let the people know we need to instill in the minds of those who say they want to lead us. Because if you are selling us our rights away, why would you come back to us and ask us for votes? Why would you come back and ask us to put you back in? when you know for yourself, you're not doing what is best for us.
Yes.
I'm not here to say who's doing good or who's doing bad. This is why I'm saying you, the voter, must consider every candidate that is running and make your minds up. Do not stay home. On voting day, go to the polls
and do not be bribed.
Exercise your rights. Do not let a white envelope or yellow, I understand some of them are yellow now, but do not let a white or yellow envelope lead you astray. We all need help. If they give you 5 cents in a white envelope, say thanks. But when you go to the polls, vote your conscience. That is what is important. Because if you don't do that, you're going to suffer in the long run. Courtney, you probably want to do something.
Yeah, but I came here trying to speak about the injustices of the banking system, and we didn't get a chance to talk nothing about that.
No, we close the election.
We have to close out now. We have to do a recap of this of the show. We talked a bit about the election process and what should happen in the coming days now. We can't even say months now, Edmund.
Days.
We have to say days now.
Days.
Of course, Bishop Klein was here, and he made a introduction and whatnot, and we talked at length about Bywater and about contingency liability and where we're going as far as the disenfranchisement of people as far as the production of water and also the sale of water in the territory. We got a number of texts, and I do apologize to our viewers that I was unable to get to most of the texts tonight because of the pace. We were also unable to get to a lot of them because of the pace of the show tonight. The show was very very fast paced tonight.
Oh yes, she was.
Had a lot of calls. We got some calls about the schools being maintained, some schools being built right now, and school is going to open in a couple of days.
Next week, yes.
Next week. And you know, we know the pressure is on, right, to provide quality education to everyone. We got a call about the health services and how that is working or not working, and how doctors are gotten rid of when they're good doctors and that kind of stuff. So I'm sure the persons who are in the health service and know what was discussed there will look up, put a keen interest in that area to see if, you know, the cause that or the criticism that is being made is true. We got a number of calls that say that the Minister of Communication is doing a good job. So I mean, we have to acknowledge that there are those people out there who are for him and in support of what he's doing as well. Edmund, all in all, I have to say that we had a very good show, and we had a good dialogue with the people of the Virgin Islands. That is one of our
will we always do.
That is something that we always cherish to have, to know that we
must thank them very much for participating.
We must thank them, whether by text or by phone call, that, you know, being a part of this show and allowing us to be in your living room, and for you to dialogue with us about these islands, about the future of these islands, is very important and something that we will continue to work on. And Edmund, I must say we had a wonderful show, and at this point I have nothing more to say other than to thank the persons that view the show and say God bless these Virgin Islands and the people that live in them, and we'll see you again next week.
What, Courtney, I would like to say one last thing. I want to thank Bishop Klein for being with us tonight. I want to thank him because I believe it's God speaking to him, and I've seen no other spiritual leader that stands up for the people. As I think somebody was suggesting to you sometime, whether here or elsewhere, if you don't get frightened for doing the work, you do something. Bishop, I want to thank you for it, and I want to let you know that this show is always open, and you can call this show if you feel you want to continue your good works of helping to lead God's people in the right direction. I want to thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Good
night. And with that, we will close the show.